That this year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life. And I see so many women around afraid to speak, especially right now, afraid to share their experiences. And fear is by design. It's what keeps us silent. But I also acknowledge that many people don't have the opportunity to speak. So I do feel fortunate that I've been able to. And it's the women who have had the ability to use their voice that's kept me strong and to me in my belief and my fight for the world to be safer for women and girls. It's a pretty simple thing.
Blake Lively is going to testify? That's the big moment, and it changes everything. Hey besties, it's Katie. We need to talk. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are trying to shift attention today, and now their lawyer is speaking with People magazine. But let me be clear, if you're a serious journalist, you don't go to People. Real reporters who ask hard questions and don't just play along with celebrity stories don't use People as their platform. The magazine is all fluff. It helps famous people tell the story they want, without digging deeper or asking real questions. They just repeat whatever the stars say, like it's all true. That's how People works, at least from what I've seen. But today, Blake and Ryan have a reason to distract everyone. Real damage is happening at Wayfair's side. Actual people are getting hurt. Some have even been arrested. Steve Sarawitz's family is being targeted, and others linked to Wayfair are facing serious trouble. And it all traces back to what Blake and Ryan did. They stirred up anger and convinced their followers that Justin and his team are a threat, which is just wild. But now that the truth about what's happening to these people is coming out, Blake and Ryan are rushing to People to speak out, making this their first official interview. In that piece, Michael Gotottle, who they call Mike, says Blake will testify, and that changes everything. They've also shared that other witnesses will speak out about serious misconduct tied to her claims. Though the names weren't revealed, their stories, especially about what happened on set, will likely be shared live in court. Live testimony can be tricky, especially in cases like this, where it often turns into a he said, she said situation. And hearsay is a big issue too. A person on the stand can only talk about what they saw or went through, not what others said. Witnesses must stick to their own experiences. What I think will be a key part of this trial is what gets found during discovery. This is when both sides, those linked to Baldwin and Wayfair, and those backing Lively, try to figure out the truth. One major question is who Blake and Ryan may have flattered or influenced. Are these people stepping up because something real happened, or is something being offered to them? That's going to be a major part of what's uncovered. During discovery, they say Lively will give a deposition, and both sides plan to do the same. They'll defend themselves, take more depositions, and use proof from documents, statements, from producers, Sony Pictures, and other people who saw things firsthand. They also mention how the public talk around this case has drifted away from what really matters. They believe there's been a lot of noise to cover up the real issue, the retaliation campaign against her. They hope the discovery process brings everything back to the main point, that Miss Lively faced backlash after she spoke up about sexual harassment. Her team is clear about this. They say the campaign to punish her began only after she raised those concerns. On top of that, there's talk about whether Ryan Reynolds will even speak at trial. He might not testify. They think the lawsuit against him is weak and doesn't really have a strong case, so he may not be a key witness after all. They still need to protect his image, especially with his new movies coming out next fall with Sony. When it comes to subpoenas, this is what they have to say. It's completely unclear how any of the celebrities even relate to the claims or defenses in this case. The real focus is on what happened to Blake Lively after she spoke up about sexual harassment on set. This isn't about how songs were picked for the movie. It's not about Marvel characters from the Deadpool films either. It's about asking the right questions and keeping the attention on what really happened to her. You can't just drag famous people into court for attention. That's not how federal courts work, and they don't allow that kind of thing. What he's trying to suggest here is that Taylor Swift is only being subpoenaed to make headlines, and she has nothing meaningful to add to the case. Gottlieb is clearly trying to shift focus away from the claims Baldoni made against them and instead push the spotlight only on Blake's situation. In their view, Blake's case is the only one that matters and isn't pointless. He's also calling out Marvel, saying they shouldn't be pulled into this over a made-up movie character. Courts don't tolerate using the system like that. What makes this even more interesting is that it's happening after they were accused of using fake subpoenas. So now, it seems like Blake's side, who already got caught using what many call a sham subpoena and a bogus lawsuit, is trying to change the story. In my opinion, they're trying to make it look like it was Wayfair, not them who abused the legal process. It's part of a real lawsuit with actual claims, and if a federal court approved it, that means a judge agreed. So for him to act like the courts won't allow it, while also running to the media to complain, just feels hypocritical. Both. Legal teams are clearly playing a public image game. They're not just protecting their clients in court, they're trying to win over public support too. But saying Taylor's subpoena was just for attention is dishonest, especially since her name appears in court filings. There's even a specific incident tied to a penthouse, and Blake reportedly called her a dragon. Brian Friedman responded to all this, saying, although obviously uncomfortable for the Lively parties, the truth is not a distraction. The truth has been clearly shown through unedited receipts, documents, and real... They say she used her dragons to control and pressure Justin at every step. They also argue Ryan's part in all of this is already well recorded, and new evidence keeps pointing to more misconduct. The big question now is, was Disney involved? Did Ryan really use company money to settle a personal score? If that's true, and Disney's shareholder funds were used this way, it could lead to major problems for anyone who helped make it happen. That kind of misuse wouldn't stay quiet for long. Yet despite how messy this already is, Gotautleb says it won't become a circus. Still, it already feels like one. He insists the case won't turn into a parade of every celebrity who ever spoke to Blake or Ryan, but that's hard to believe. What Blake and Ryan seem to be doing now is reacting to their celebrity friends unfollowing or distancing themselves, trying to stay ahead by saying, we're not pulling our friends into this, even though they already are involved. Brian Friedman is skilled, but he still plays his own game of deflection. The stuff about Disney and shareholder money, it's serious. He's suggesting Disney allowed company funds to be used in ways they weren't meant to be, possibly to attack someone personally. Since Disney is a public company, that could mean trouble. If shareholder money was used to hurt someone, that could lead to legal action from investors. That's the big point he's hinting at, misuse of shareholder funds. And honestly, I think Disney is involved. They are. But that's a whole separate issue. What's happening now in all this media talk is classic deflection. Let's be clear, deflection means shifting blame, changing the subject, or avoiding fault. And that's exactly what's happening with all the talk around these subpoenas, spinning it as court abuse to distract from what's really going on. That's why Brian Friedman said, if you didn't want her involved, you shouldn't have pulled her in. And he's right. The truth isn't a distraction. So why are they working so hard to change the story and redirect attention? Because just last week, Taylor Swift got subpoenaed. Travis Kelce unfollowed. There's talk that Gigi Hadid and Bradley Cooper are stepping away. People in their inner circle don't want to be tied to them anymore. It's like the only person still standing with them is Hugh Jackman, and maybe a few others they can afford to keep close. The timing of all this deflection makes sense too. Blake knows that anything she says gets picked up by dozens of media outlets, so when she talks, People magazine runs with it, and then the rest follow, helping her control the narrative before the real truth catches up. I'm not just repeating what's out there. I'm going beneath the surface, showing you why they might be acting this way. The Daily Mail reported yesterday that Baldoni and his PR team are facing terrible death threats and private health information leaks as the legal fight with Blake. Lively continues. This follows an incident on May 7th in Highland Park, Lake County, Illinois, where prosecutors say a suspect set a fire at billionaire Steve Sarawitz's home. The suspect then allegedly threatened to kidnap Sarawitz's daughter, unless he handed over $80,000 in cash. Text messages were found linking Blake Lively's name to the incident. County Assistant State Attorney Dino Catrice said a garbage can was set on fire in the driveway, though the specific address hasn't been revealed. The couple also owns a film production company currently involved in an ongoing lawsuit with Blake Lively and other Hollywood stars. Catrice, the assistant state attorney, pointed out that the drama surrounding the Hollywood lawsuit has attracted a lot of media attention. On the same day as the arson, Steve's wife reportedly received a text message from an unknown number threatening to kidnap their daughter unless they paid $80,000 in cash. The message went on to threaten harm if the demands weren't met, saying they would hold her hostage and keep asking for more money. If you're ready to spend $100 million to destroy Lively and her family, surely you can spare a few. For your daughter. A day later, more texts were sent to the family's daughter, claiming, "We know where you are. You're not untouchable. No matter how much you upgrade your security, it won't stop us. We're ready to ruin all your lives for just a little bit of money." Another message followed. this time to both the mother and daughter. We gave you time to think. Remember, no one is untouchable, not even you. We'll get past any security measures you take. We're prepared to destroy your lives. We're not asking for millions, just $80,000. That's nothing to you. Eduardo Aragon was charged with arson, 6 counts of intimidation, and 1 count of harassment. The charges describe him as dangerous. Setting fire to a family's home in the middle of the night is reckless. Fires can spread fast and are unpredictable. This happened when the family and their staff would be asleep. Aragon planned his actions and used his skills to track down the family's phone numbers, trying to cover his tracks by using internet apps and public Wi-Fi to avoid being detected. It was like an untraceable smear campaign that became all too real. He took serious steps to terrorize this family, putting them in constant fear for their safety. The prosecutors argued that he should not be allowed bond. This information came out yesterday, and then Blake's attorneys made a statement this morning. It wasn't a coincidence. Last night, the Daily Mail spoke with someone who, sources close to Baldoni revealed to the Daily Mail that both he and his PR team are facing horrific death threats after the lawsuit was filed. Legal documents from Lively's team also included addresses of several publicists involved, leaving them worried about their family's safety. One employee of TAG said she had to build a gate to secure her property because of the threats. "I had to tell my child's school about the death threats," she said. "We had to build a gate for security because the court filings have essentially doxed us." They shared an email sent to Jen AL which read, "You are one of the most evil people in the world, a terrorist. Your Blake Lively campaign is as bad as something you'd expect from Trump. I know being called a public relations terrorist probably doesn't feel like a compliment. I hope you have the worst Christmas, and that Hollywood realizes you are the Hitler of publicists. Your response was insulting to anyone with intelligence, like something a junior PR student would say. The hope is that the studios treat you like the vile creature you are and cancel you." Another source added that a woman with 2 small children under 4 has been too afraid to leave her house due to the overwhelming number of threats sent to her, which have spread across social media. These threats include people promising to harm anyone working for the company and their families. Private home addresses have been leaked in court documents filed by Lively's team, and these have been shared online, putting people's lives in danger. The actions taken against private individuals have caused horrible situations. Some of the threats obtained by the Daily Mail referred to Nathan and Abel as the Hitler of publicists. One message simply said, "I hope you effing die." Another message targeted Melissa Nathan, and many of the threats were anti-Semitic. One threat stated, "I'm going to enjoy watching you be destroyed," while another read, "I hope your life is miserable and that you experience the worst pain ever." There has been a huge wave of anti-Semitism toward the group, with another employee deeply concerned for the safety of her elderly parents, whom she cares for. Then, prosecutors in Illinois revealed last week that a suspect set fire to Steve Sarowitz's family home after threatening to kidnap their daughter if they didn't hand over $80,000 in cash. They then go on to explain what I just shared about the arson suspect. Now, here's the dirty truth about what Blake and Ryan are doing. Blake and Ryan went to court demanding a broad protective order, asking that no addresses be released and that all third-party and location information remain confidential. But this was after they filed summonses in the public record for the people they sued. In federal court, for proper service, the summons has to be submitted so it's clear they've been served. However, the federal court system lets you redact the address from public records if there are privacy or safety concerns. So Blake and Ryan are worried about their privacy and safety, but they don't want. They had the chance in court to file the summons return, confirming it was properly served without including the address. They could have redacted the address from the public record while still providing the full summons to the court. This would have protected the privacy of those involved, especially private citizens like Jen AL, Melissa Nathan, and Jed Wallace. Even Steve Sarowitz, despite being a billionaire and founder of Wayfair, isn't truly a public figure. But they played dirty. Very dirty. Instead of being served in person by a process server, Blake's attorneys accepted the service for her. This way, her address wouldn't be revealed. She might argue that this could have been avoided, but she didn't need to make their addresses public in the summons. What makes this situation even more intense is Blake's team using violent language when talking about not only Steve Sarowitz, but also others related to the case. They've constantly referred to Steve Sarowitz. They've quoted him saying, There will be dead bodies in this case, suggesting that Steve is a man willing to murder people. When they tried to bring this up in court, the judge even asked, "You're not really going to do that, right?" But Blake's team keeps pushing this narrative, subtly using the PR and public records to paint Steve as a dangerous person, implying he'll destroy Lively's life for no reason. This is a dangerous PR move, especially when real lives are at stake. This is why I despise malignant narcissists. They twist the truth. Steve has every right to spend whatever it takes to protect his businesses, his personal life, and his companies. He's worth billions and owns multiple businesses, just like his wife. These aren't people sitting idle. They've had great reputations and have contributed to philanthropy until Blake Lively came along, falsely accusing him of wanting to kill people. Todd Chrisley sued me after he went on a nationally syndicated podcast and accused me of child abuse. He did several podcasts where he claimed I was abusing my son, which I wasn't, and suggested CPS should be called. He described things I allegedly did to my child, then accused me of committing crimes. After these podcasts aired, we had CPS show up at our house, along with people reporting us for child abuse, which wasn't true and wasted resources. We also had people calling the police, doxing us, and swatting us. This was all done on purpose, using litigation to intimidate those involved in their case. At that time, Todd was suing me and trying to scare me into giving him what he wanted. I hadn't done anything wrong, but his goal was to get my communications with his daughter, which he later tampered with. He intimidated her, and she went on to commit perjury, which he suborned through me, even though my name wasn't mentioned. In his sentencing, I was part of it. I know what it's like when someone stirs up their followers through court filings, public statements, podcasts, and friends to falsely paint you as the problem, all to deflect from their own actions. Then, they threaten you to force you to settle, making it seem like if you didn't do anything wrong, you should just give in. They'll claim it wasn't them causing the chaos, that they can't control the internet or real-life actions, but the truth is, they can control their words. They choose how they respond, and they can decide to lie or tell the truth. They can also choose to frame someone as a dangerous psychopath, like they've done to Steve. They're trying to turn this into a sinister, scary murder plot. But the facts are simple. They're using fear tactics to provoke action. It's like inciting a riot, hoping that people will turn on their targets. This kind of intimidation is terrifying, and it's impossible to explain how it feels to be on the receiving end. The constant fear for your safety, having to look over your shoulder, being stalked, harassed, and intimidated, it changes everything. I can deeply empathize with what these people are going through. Blake's PR team can try all they want to deflect from what's really happening, but the truth is clear. If you look at what's actually happening, you'll see who's being harmed. Is anyone showing up at Blake's house trying to burn it down? No. But Steve's house is being targeted, and Blake's team is using phrases about dead bodies and insinuating that Steve will murder people to make him seem dangerous. Violent rhetoric is exactly what the judge was trying to stop. But this is what she's doing, and it's why I believe people steer clear of them. They're scared. It reminds me a lot of P. Diddy, and the more we dig into this, the more it seems like they have things to hide. We're going to keep digging. So, what do you think about these latest developments? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please, help by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, besties.